And I think what the previous industry and then teaching provided me was really just a vision for what is possible. Like me growing up in a household, like you were saying, that scarcity mindset where I don't even think I even knew that was even attainable money. So when we were saying like the good years, I remember crying in my car. I couldn't believe it came into my account. Like, what is this? So it almost seemed ridiculous to think that it's possible, but I think it taught me like, okay, you mismanaged money, but now you're a big girl and you can do things differently. And you also have a business that's really steady and really like thriving. So you can do it differently, which is great. Like every season teaches you a lesson.
Welcome to the Know Your Worth show, where we teach you how to think about your money differently so that you can achieve your sexy money goals. I'm Sydney, your money maven and owner of Know Your Worth.
And I'm Kristen, Sid's dime piece bestie, team member, and busy mama twins, here to make sure that those of us without a financial degree can still level up with each episode. Let's get started on reaching your next goal. We are so excited because today we have one of my besties here. This is Annie Davis. Hi, Annie.
Hey, girls, how are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, of course.
We're super pumped. So Annie is a former classroom teacher of 10 years. Annie and I actually met in 2000. When were the good years, Annie? Like 2015?
A lifetime ago.
A lifetime ago, when we both joined the same direct sales company. We'd lived in the same city like our whole lives, but didn't know each other. And we became quick besties. And then, we both moved on to different jobs. Annie is currently an insurance agency owner and a work from home mom. She's got 3 kiddos. So Annie, if you don't mind, can you just tell us a little bit about like your career story, anything you want anybody to know?
Yeah, absolutely. So you pretty much got all the things like broken down into a little like bite-sized piece. I graduated from college from Penn State, sort of always thinking and knowing that I wanted to be in the classroom. So that's what I did. I started in the classroom and was really happy there, as it allowed me to kind of be on my kids' schedule or schedules as I continued to have kids. And then as we just continued to grow our family, it became really obvious that being able to stay home with my kids was probably never going to be possible. Matt and I really did a great job at sharing responsibilities, but the reality of like, hey, one of us is going to be able to like really be a stay-at-home parent was in our cards, unless of course I chose a different route. And so that's kind of why I was initially intrigued by something outside of the norm. And when Kristen and my friend Kara had sort of started in the direct sales industry, it made sense for me because it was a product that I really saw being something I would want to use. So then I grew a team there and was really happy there until I wasn't. And then it became harder and harder to be able to duplicate what success we had found. So I decided to go back to the classroom because we needed to financially, but also too because I had found myself getting bored and complacent. And that's never a good place for me to sit whenever I'm feeling any kind of complacency or just boredom or just I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like not inspired, I guess is the right word. I needed something different. So I went back to the classroom and was quickly, inundated with all of that. But then again, I think I found myself feeling like I could work forever and ever and max out at this. And that was just a place I didn't want to sit anymore. So I found insurance. It was something that I would have least expected. I mean, Kristen, I remember having conversations with her and being like, I didn't know this was going to be something I found to be in my like wheelhouse skills, but I think it morphed together all the things that I love, which is team building and people skills and just relating to humans on like a human level. And I had firsthand experience of losing 2 parents. And so it was really a big motivator for me to inform people and just give them sort of background into what insurance does for people's lives.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome, Annie. I think that you and I bonded like really early on about money stress, but also the way that we were brought up and the values that we were taught around money. And Sid and I talk about that a lot with people on our podcast. What were some of the money stories that you had growing up? Do you want to share any of yours?
Yeah, for sure. So money noise has just always been part of my life. Like, I feel like when money was really good, I didn't know what to do with it. And then when money was really good, and there have been many of those years too, I also like realized that I bonded so quickly to this, I don't know, identity of like what money does for me and what money makes or doesn't make me, which is like can be very shameful at times. So my background, or like my family background, is that my mom she ended up being a speech therapist. She went to school, she's brilliantly smart, but she took a job that, was very family centered so that she could be in the schools and help with the kids in the schools, but also be on our schedule. So I learned right out of the gate, like, you can be really smart, but family's first, right? Like family is the most important thing. So I think not that I learned that money was like a dirty thing, or I, associated it with, but I always thought like, oh, you put your family first, right? So then, and my dad was an entrepreneur, and he was an artist and a photographer. So those types of things for him were always contractual jobs. Like, he was always doing commission-based jobs, which, funny enough, like, my work is in commission, but it was either feast or famine. Like, and when I say, I always joke, because with the kids, like when I go to the grocery store, I'm like, you guys have no idea how good you have it. Because when we were kids, like, we never got like Lucky Charms or whatever. We got Swift roll. And when I say feast, it wasn't a feast. It was just that my parents we never were on like any kind of like, financial assistance, but there was never a lot, but we didn't know that. So that money noise has always sort of been in my brain as I've gotten older.
Yeah, we talk a lot with a lot of our guests that it has such an impact on how you make financial decisions today is, what did your parents talk about? What was their conversation? Were they a team with money? Were they not a team with money? Did they communicate it to you guys as children? Did they not? And so it's kind of like recognizing that in yourself and how you're making those decisions today is so really important to know and see how it impacts you just going forward. So yeah, it's interesting when you're saying money noise. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I can remember, and I still do the same thing. Like, I can remember my mom dreading like the day she paid bills, and I was Krista on the day I'm paying bills. Like, well, I'm the same way. I'm like, my mom duplicate. And like, I remember my dad being like, well, we have to wait until I get paid from that job. And so it's always something that I am striving to like quiet in my brain, because it's an awareness, but it's something I don't want to duplicate with kids,
I love that.
Yeah.
So jumping into it, Annie, I feel like I could answer all these for you because we've talked about all these, but what do you think is the biggest like learning experience that you had with your business finances? I mean, think back to RNF when we like had more money than we had any business having, because we had no idea what to do.
Like, what did we do to earn that money? I don't understand.
I don't think we should talk about this.
I think the biggest thing I have learned is that more money can always be made. And I think I have like a scarcity mindset still, very much so. I think it's being a teacher. Like, I'm a W-2 employee as a teacher, but now I'm not. And so Sydney and I, we've had conversations about like what that looks like being a big girl and doing things like not like a W-2 employee, which I know a lot of growth in that area. But I think just knowing that more money can be made, that it's always a plenty. My skill sets can take me really anywhere I want to go. But if you want to get to like the meat of it, like, I don't have great money skills, like money management. And I think that comes from just never having to do it, because I just never had it. So I don't know, like when we were in the RNF years, like I remember being able to put a lot of money away a month, and I thought I like need it. Gosh, this is great. Is this what it feels like? Put like X amount into your savings account every month. So I don't know. The biggest lesson I learned is it has to be managed appropriately, or you'll put it away. I guess that's the best thing to say, right? I don't know.
Yeah. No, those are great points. I mean, so the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset is like, it's such a tough one. And that's one thing that was what I really convinced myself whenever I was quitting my job, to go full-time self-employed was that there's always more money to be made. And I think I leaned into that so hard I've shifted myself to really think that way now. But that's a hard position to be in, especially whenever you grow up in a household that is very conservative or that is very frugal. There are limits and there are always going to be limits. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's hard then to think of the abundance side of it. So I completely get where you're coming from there. And then, not having a plan or like how you're saying, just not, having the skill, the financial skill set there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the financial skill set is something that it's funny because I feel like for when it comes to like my personal money, I hate not being able to shop and buy what I want to shop. I hate not being able to, if I have a card and I'm in a store and I see something I'm probably going to get it for the most part. So my plan is I have to set it up before. I have to do it the second I get paid. I have to put the money in savings. I have to pay the cards. I have to do the things that I need to do. And then what's left over, hey, let's go. That's kind of how my budget's sort of turned to. And I think at different phases of my life, it's ebbed and flowed. I have to be stricter to a budget this month. But on the seasons where you kind of know you're covered there, your financial skill set can just be, let's get it out first of what do I need to put away? What do I need to pay off? After that, how am I going to treat myself a little bit? Or what do I want? What do I need? And I think just having that initial is a really good way to just start to develop some of those thought processes of just personal budgeting and finances and the skill sets that come with it. But
I love it. Well, that's something I can for sure just implement right away. I know here's my spreadsheet. Here are the things that need paid every month. I get, when I have an income drop in, this is what needs to get paid first.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that. And I think when you were speaking, I was thinking about another lesson that I learned. I think what the previous industry and then teaching provided me was really just a vision for what is possible. Me growing up in a household, like you were saying, that scarcity mindset where I don't even think I even knew that was even attainable money. So when we were saying the good years, I remember crying in my car. I couldn't believe it came into my account. What is this? Mm-hmm. So it almost seemed ridiculous to think that it's possible, but I think it taught me okay, you mismanaged money, but now you're a big girl and you can do things differently. And you also have a business that's really steady and really thriving. So you can do it differently, which is great. Every season teaches you a lesson.
Yep, definitely. And every season is going to be a little different than the last of not only the lessons you learn, but how you implement them too. So what's possible and attainable this season and what's not possible or attainable this season. And it's always ebbing and flowing 100%. So I think giving yourself grace through those different seasons is important too.
Yeah.
So you wear a lot of hats, Annie. You have 3 kids and a million different activities. You have your jobs. You have your husband who he does. Talk about Matt a little bit and what he does, because it's not your standard, goes to a 9 to 5.
Yeah. He was, he was in a position where he did sort of a 9 to 5-ish work. But when Kristen and I met each other, Matt was actually working at the same gym where Chris was working. And then that kind of shifted as, I said, we had kids. So then he worked in a warehouse and he did, 3 12-hour shifts or something like that to be home with the kids. And then it sort of kind of transitioned into, I think when RNF was great and the business was awesome and blossoming, we decided as a couple that he was going to step away from that and pursue something that was really on his heart, which was flipping homes. And so we made some investments in some property locally and he got into real estate. So he still does real estate. He's not in the market right now for a flip because the market's just astronomical. But he's selling real estate. He's working on he does all sorts of general construction. He's a general contractor too. So he does a lot of in-home work for people, kitchens, bathroom remodels and stuff. So yeah, he just kind of he's the jack of all trades.
It's fantastically talented.
He does all the things at the house. And, he's painting our house right now. So he kind of has his hands
I might need him to come out to my house. We just bought a new house. Yeah, we bought a new house and it was a what's the word called? It was a foreclosure. So we're doing lots of work on it. I will say I think I'm an expert painter now. I feel very confident about painter. But
Come paint my house?
Huh?
You want to come paint my house?
Yeah, I really like painting actually now. Like I find it very like methodical and like I actually really enjoy it. I was thinking about that last night with Alex. I'm like, wow, I haven't really done crafts in a long time, but I feel like I like don't have the desire because this is just scratching the itch for me. Like
You're just crafting your whole house.
exactly. I'm just painting the whole house right now. Man, edging these windows is like really doing it for me. But, yeah, I'm really enjoying the painting side, but all of the other like little projects of just like, the little construction projects inside and outside is just, I think we've had contractors at our house. Like we've been there for 1 month now. And I think maybe 50% of the days we've been there, we've had contractors there.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, Matt is fantastically talented. I mean, you should see some of the stuff he's done.
That's
So,
awesome. That's awesome.
so then Annie, with like you and Matt balancing your schedules, your kids, your jobs, like have you outsourced anything that has like lightened your load a little bit? Or how did you like first that question, I guess?
Okay. I'm just at the brink of doing those like things that I know I need to do. I'm such a control freak of very high, as you know. So like even asking to take on any of the admin stuff is like, oh, but wait, you don't know how to do it that way. Or like you didn't make this font color the right color on my spreadsheet. So like it's there's a lot that I have to learn about outsourcing. I will say though that I'm getting to the point where I am realizing that it is going to be difficult to maintain and scale where I want my agency to go if I'm the only person that's doing that. So it takes a big like, okay, we're going to do this. So I actually am in the process of hiring an admin. If I could, I would just grab Chris and do the screen and she would be that did it, but I have somebody that is probably going to take over just little tasks, like things that I don't want to do. And then, Sydney does my bookkeeping and she's connected me with a tax person. So, I feel like I have some things that I'm, working through, but it's like, it hasn't always been like this pretty, like laid out plan. Like I'm figuring it out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, that's awesome. I mean, that's what Sid and I talk about with people all the time. Like you do it yourself until it just becomes apparent that you have to give the things that anyone can do. So you can do only the things that you can do. And that's what Sid always says.
Definitely.
Which must have stuck somewhere back in my brain because it just came out of my mouth.
Yep.
That's fun.
So true though. Like there's only one person that can do my kind of work, which is picking up the phone and talking to clients and making general connections with them that are long lasting and taking them from point A to point B and doing that fluidly. But there's a lot of people that can do an Excel spreadsheet or that can do my posts on social media. Like there's people that can do that for me that I don't need.
Okay. So hiring an assistant's amazing. So congratulations on that. That's a great sexy money goal. What was there like an aha moment that really made you realize that? Or was it like a series of small ones? Or, what was kind of the trigger point of this is it, I need to do this?
I think it compiled. Like I knew it was coming. I knew once I signed over paperwork that allowed me to own and have true agency over my agency, like be in charge of my business. I started to realize that I can't, when it's time to sit down and do human work, I can't be clicking around. Like I can't be moving and shuffling papers. That is not an effective way for my hourly, what I'm worth hourly. It can't be spent on a spreadsheet. Like that's just stupidity. So it was leveling up in like seeing what other people were doing. So it was like associating with like, okay, all these people are where I want to be and they don't do the stuff that I'm doing. That's minutia. So that was another part of it. And then I think it's just, there's only so many hours in the day. I can't spend those hours doing the mundane, just spend it doing the real gold money making.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've said this in a couple other of our episodes, but it's just such a good, like, it's stuck in my head so much that there's this It's called clockwork. And it's about how you can make your business run for you, pretty much. And, if you're supposed to take a month-long vacation to Germany, Europe, wherever, and it would run without you completely. And it's how do you do that? And one of the things they talk about in it is outsourcing certain roles. And if you can outsource roles in your business for like a quarter of what your hourly rate is, it should be a no-brainer.
Mhm.
Like 100% should outsource it easily. Because if it takes you, an hour to do something and your rate's $100 an hour and you can be paying someone $25 an hour, which is a great hourly rate, then you should be doing it without question, without thought, because it just frees up so much time. And, agreed with you too on it's so hard to hire. You can't really hire. The first hire can't be the one that replaces you with your clients. That's not the first hire. So, and I might have brought this up in another podcast too, but whenever I went to a conference, the way that they described it was your first hire is your generalist. So your first hire is the generalist. They can do a little bit of everything. And then your hires after that are your generals. So they're the ones leading those areas. So your first hire is your generalist, and then you find your generals. Because you can't hire head of sales when you're the one that then still going to do all the administrative work. So you can't go get more agents that are going to do exactly what you're doing until you're not doing administrative work anymore.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It ultimately puts me in a seat too, where I can help coach and train the leaders that I'm bringing in, which is what I want to do to build an agency that's thriving.
Absolutely.
There's something you said though that stuck with me. And I also very early on, and this is really, really like mundane and small. I hired out a cleaning lady. Like I remember, we lived in our house. It was like we didn't even. There was like no cleaning to be done, really, other than like the obvious cleaning that other people have lived there. But we hired a cleaning lady, and I was like, "This is
Yeah.
because I was teaching, and I did not want to clean. Like that was just so stupid to me. I'm like, I'm not going to.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So
I love that.
So I
love
love
that.
her, and she's been like, she's my weekly gift. So
It's amazing.
You're like, I love you more than my husband.
Yeah, I really do.
I wanted to hire a cleaning lady for a very long time, and my old house was literally so small that like I could sneeze and it would probably clean more damage than it would do. Like it would just, all the dust would clear off every single countertop thing in my whole house, but I hate doing it. It was such an annoying time pinch that, it's so funny. And my mom knows that about me a little bit too, that's not necessarily where my attention always goes. So she's been helping me unpack some things in the new house, and she's just looking around, and it's about 6 times bigger than our old house. She's like, I think you should look into a cleaning lady, Sydney. Like, I really think that you're going to need some help here. And I don't know how to find one. So how did you find your cleaning lady?
Well, and I agree with you, and I agree with your mom. I think your mom's advice, the best money I spend every single week. It's like the easiest Venmo that I send. I'm like, yes. I actually just got a referral, just like you would do for any other thing. Like I think I posted maybe on social media that I was looking for someone to clean my house.
Yeah.
And someone reached out and she's like, you would really like her. I can make an introduction. Just like how anything happens. Just like how I met you, Sid, through Kristen.
Yeah.
And from there, she came and I guess I interviewed her. I don't even know if that's like really a thing, but she came to our townhouse and I was like, please, I promise this is not my forever home. Like, don't judge me. And she's been like, she's wonderful. I love her. So.
That's awesome. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to need to, that'll be the next thing I outsource will probably be my cleaning.
And for you, Sid, because this is like a real business question. And maybe I'm not allowed to ask you this question. So if you need.
No, ask.
Okay. So I have a W, or I have an LLC. I should say that. I have an LLC for my insurance business, but I don't run any of the things through it yet. I just have like a checking account that the deposits go into. So my question is, if I want to hire the help to help me with like the admin stuff. Is that something that it wouldn't be a 1099 position because there's things that I can't specify when they're working, but would it be a W-2 position? And like, how does that work?
So it depends on how you're dictating what they're doing. If you are, there's a couple like main pillars of what is a differentiator between a W-2 and a 1099 contractor. And control over what they're working on is one of them. But obviously you have some control over what they're working on, no matter who you're working with. I mean, you're not hiring a plumber and telling them to do whatever they want. You know, you're giving them a specific role and task, even though you're not hiring them as a W-2 employee. So you can have defined tasks of what they're doing, but if you are dictating like every day from this time to this time, they clock in, they clock out, they have to show up to a specific place that you are requesting every day, then it's an employee, W-2 employee. But if you're saying, you know, these are the tasks that I need in no particular order, you can choose when you want to do them. You can choose your method of completing them. They have control over the task they're working on in that sense, and when they're working on it, where they're working on it. Then that can be more of a 1099. Again, for example, if you're hiring, an artist to paint a mural inside of your workspace, you're hiring them to do a task you're asking them to do. You're dictating what they're doing, but it's a project. So that makes it more of a contract than a W-2. But if you were to think about somebody that's more ongoing, like a social media person, those people are outsourced professional services. Your bookkeeper, I'm an outsourced professional service. I'm not an employee of your business. Yeah, Kristen, for me, she has her business. She has her outsourced professional services. So I give Kristen tasks to do, but I don't say, hey, I need you to clock in by 9. These all need to be done by 5. You need to be wearing this and showing up here and speaking. Yeah, I don't dictate that. Kristen can just basically go through the task. Same with a lot of the part-time bookkeeping help that I hire, that they're working directly in our business, but they're dictating their schedules. They're dictating when they're showing up to work. I don't have predetermined times or anything like that. The other piece of that is not just control over what they're working on, but how they work. So if you buy them any equipment, if you buy them the laptop that you insist they work on, and then that's technically your laptop, that's more of an employee. If you're giving them the tools and supplies needed to complete their work, it's more of an employee than a contractor. And so again, for example, all of the contractors that work for me, Kristen, are part-time bookkeepers. They have their own laptops. I don't provide them with laptops. They have their own tools, their equipment. I'm not providing them any training or education either. And that's not necessarily training and education on just like, hey, this is how I talk to my clients. This is how I prefer you talk to my clients. That's very different. That's just them working with you. If you're saying, I want to hire you, but you have to go through this certification or you have to go through this training course, and I'm requiring that you do it, that's borderline employee. So if you are requiring that they come with very specific skill sets that you're paying for and kind of forcing them to do, you're providing them with the tools and materials, and you're dictating when they work, they're more employee. So basically they need to be able to come to work with their own knowledge and resources and on their own time. And they can still complete that predetermined list for you. But you're not necessarily controlling every piece of it.
Gotcha. So the only thing really I'm thinking in my line of work would be if they be licensed in order to do the work.
And that's a good question. I would, in particular with that, like if they need like their LAH or something just to do small pieces of it. I know my husband was in the insurance industry. So I know when he was doing like certain pieces of it that were probably like more on the administrative side when he first started, you always needed your LAH. But or LHA. LHA. Lifetime accident, LHA.
Yeah, life accident.
I remember. Oh, so LAH. So it is life accident. I was sort of close. I don't know all of it, but I know like one term. But that would be something that would be good to look into for that. And I'm not totally certain on that because, for example, If it's required by law that they have it, that's something where I'm borderline not sure. I would look into that. I would do my research on. The other thing you can always do whenever you're hiring somebody and outsourcing work is you can go to the Pennsylvania Department of Revenue website and you can literally say, I'm not sure if this is an employer or contractor, and you can submit like a write-up of what their functions are going to be. And the state will tell you if they're an employer or contractor. And then you don't need to worry about if you've classified them incorrectly. And so I'm pretty certain last time I checked that was a free service too, that you can just ask. But in terms of paying them then, if they are a contractor, you can pay them, in whatever way you've determined with them that you are paying them. Is it in stages of typically a contractor is that there is a contract in place for more project by project or term by term, whether it's month to month. And you just kind of set up that contract with them that they can give you 30 days notice and be done, or they can, based on these things, that's kind of the stipulations of their agreement. So are you basing your pay to them off of the project, off of timeline, off of number of hours worked? Once they hit 10 hours, you initiate a payment, things like that. And you can pay them whatever way you both agree upon, whether it's cash, check, anything there. You just want to make sure it's documented in your bookkeeping account, your QuickBooks account, so that you can issue them the 1099. And if they are, you can have a W-2 employee for a single member LLC. So even if you're not on payroll, you can have a W-2 employee. You just need to make sure that you set up them as an employee. You can utilize QuickBooks, Gusto, ADP, anything like that, and get them set up and onboarded. You just need to make sure submit for a license for payroll tax. I'm an account for payroll taxes and withholding through PA, Department of Revenue. Cool. Long-winded answer there, but
hey, but this will be to be determined. So I'll
be
talking about it.
Sounds good.
And Andy, I've done this admin, the 1099 stuff for like 2 years now. So if you ever want to talk about, what that looks like, or the kind of rules or the things that I do and the timelines that I do them on and the way that I've set up expectations with like Sid or the other people I work with, I'm happy to talk about that.
I would love that.
Awesome.
Yeah. I feel like lots of people out there probably have that same question. So that's probably going to be really helpful.
I think employee versus contractor is confusing.
Yeah. And I also think too, because I think having an employee or having somebody that works on your behalf, however that looks, is like, cause I don't even consider that something that would even be relevant to my life, but it's become apparent that it's relevant. And so you're like, how do I dip my toe in that big swimming pool? Like that seems like a very big responsibility.
Yeah.
To have somebody, like depending on you. So.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's a daunting, but it's a fun responsibility. It's neat to have, kind of weight to carry, that you're building something and you're doing something that other people need their support for and depend on it. So it's great. It's a good problem to have.
That's right.
Oh, awesome. Well, Annie, last question. What's one skill that you've developed around your business finances that has made the biggest difference for you?
I think hiring, like we've talked about, hiring some people that are more professional and know what they're doing. That's very important. I've separated my money, which for me was it was like the easiest, but like also probably one of the simplest things that like easiest, but like hardest, I guess is what decisions to make.
That's a great one.
Yeah, because when you're getting all your money deposited into like your joint account, you're like, oh my gosh, I got a lot of money. And then you're like, second, all of a sudden you feel poor. And then you're like, wait, where'd it go? So I think just knowing that, like, just trying to manage where it is, where it's going. I've been tracking my business, which has been that's like a bit like money to me doesn't make sense. Numbers don't make sense to me. People make sense. Like I'm a nurturer or I'm a pioneer connector. So like big ideas make sense to me and like relationships make sense to me. Numbers sound like a different language. So that has been probably a big game changer for me, is just like tracking where numbers are, what's happening, business is getting issued, business is pending, that kind of, and knowing when I'm getting paid and how much I'm getting paid. Like those are things that Kristen, you and I used to say, like, we don't know how we get paid. We get paid. Like,
It's just like magic.
it's like magic. It just like pops in my account.
Oh, I wish I could rewind.
I'm still very much so like that, but I'm working on being a big girl.
That's great.
Well, thanks for being with us today, Annie. If anybody wants to follow you or has more questions about your insurance business, where can they find you online, or what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at the @ Davis, or on Facebook at Annie Davis. You can email me at Annie@thedavislifegroup.com.
Thanks, friend.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, girls. I really appreciate it.
If you found a bit of inspiration in this episode for achieving your sexy money goals, click the subscribe button on your favorite podcast app or YouTube so that you never miss an episode.